It's the Go Gopher Podcast with Mike Grimm, episode number 181. I am Mike Grimm, voice of the Golden Gophers, and welcome back to the podcast. This week we have a couple of interviews I did at the Big Ten Football Media Days last week. That includes a check-in with Big Ten Coordinator of Officials Bill Corollo. He gives us the dish on the new rules for the coming season and what officials will be looking for during the games. And former Gopher Daryl Thompson, who was with me in Vegas, he and I will chat with another former Gopher, Carlon Burt. You might remember that name. He now lives in Vegas, and he joined us out there as well. All of that is straight ahead. Our Go Gopher Podcast is presented by alumni-owned Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. If you're a business founder planning to exit your business, start by contacting Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. Sunbelt serves more businesses up to $5 million in revenue than anyone, and True North M&A serves companies with revenues up to $150 million. Get a confidential, no-cost, no-obligation business valuation started today. Make the most of your life's work. Visit sunbeltminnesota.com or tnma.com today. Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union's also a big sponsor of the Go Gopher Podcast. Life math is complicated, and Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union makes it easier with local financial experts to help in person or virtually. Go to affinityplus.org/Go Gophers for more info. The Go Gopher Podcast is also presented by onX Maps. Find out how to download the onX Hunt app for free by listening to the Go Gopher Podcast. We're podcasting episode 181 from the Aquarius Home Services studio. We invite you to subscribe to the podcast. It's free to do so. You can go back and listen to other Go Gopher podcasts from previous weeks. Last episode, for example, we chatted with Gopher defensive end Anthony Smith, a player with high expectations for 2025. That, too, was from Big Ten Football Media Days in Vegas. It's still timely, so go back and have a listen if you missed it. This week, we'll hear from Bill Corollo, Carlon Burt, and more. All that next.
I'm Clay Geary, walk-on turned scholarship wide receiver for Gopher football.
And I'm Ben Utek, U of M alumni, Super Bowl champion, and Tony Dungy Uncommon Award winner.
We understand championship culture, which is why we're part of the True North family of companies.
True North invests in only elite teams, like the champion team at Sunbelt Business Advisors, Minnesota's largest seller of companies. To learn more about True North and our diverse family of independently owned companies, visit TrueNorthEquityPartners.com.
Keep the good times rolling without the regrets. Giggly THC beverages are your go-to for bold flavor and smooth vibes. Zero alcohol, no bad decisions. Just THC-infused cocktails, seltzers, and teas packed with natural ingredients and performance-boosting superfoods like ashwagandha and ginseng. Find Giggly at over 500 locations like Total Wine, MGM, and Cub Foods, or shop online at Giggly.com. That's Gigli.com. Ready to upgrade your drink game? Use the code Giggly North, as in Giggly Talk North. Giggly North, Gigli North, for 50% off your first order. Giggly, sip smarter, feel better.
Episode 181 of the Go Gopher Podcast. Glad to have you with us. My name is Mike Grimm. Much of this podcast coming to you from Las Vegas, where all of the coaches, all 18 coaches from the Big Ten, met with reporters last week. We're going to play a little snippet from three of them. Those, of course, are the three that are right here in our area. Gopher head coach P.J. Fleck certainly has high hopes for his 2025 team. He's instructing his squad to be delusional. Yes, delusional about their goals.
It means no cap on the jar, right? No limitations, right? Dreaming big. With the college football playoff of where it is, as Indiana showed last year, anybody can get there. And if we're delusional enough to know we can do that, we can get there. And when you're somewhere long enough, the standards are one thing, but then you continue to raise the expectations, and that's what we want to continue to do. But we want to do that off the field as well. We want to be delusional as husbands, as fathers, right? As brothers, as sons, as members of our community. Take the cap off the jar, limitless. There's two things that connect the locker room more than anything. It's empathy and gratitude. If you do not have those two things, you do not have a connected locker room. And our players are incredibly grateful, right? And they have empathy. They can walk a mile in somebody else's shoes. They're willing to do that for each other.
That's Gopher coach P.J. Fleck. On paper, Wisconsin head coach Luke Fickell's team will play one of the most challenging schedules in the country for the upcoming season. He says that has only bolstered his team's want to.
I can honestly say with that schedule has brought upon probably a lot of the changes that which we have, right? Whether that's guys that are no longer with us or guys that are with us today. The great thing about that schedule is pretty easy to be able to lay it down right in front of everybody, whether they were coming back for their 5th year or 4th year or guys that were coming into our program, a guy like Billy Edwards. Right? This isn't the NFL where they lay out the schedule sometime in April. Everybody knows what they signed up for, and everybody knows what they stuck around for. And the beautiful thing about that is we've been able to embrace that. We've been able to say, hey, this isn't going to be an elephant in the room. We understand what being a part of the Big Ten, what being a part of this conference, and in order to be at the top and to be the best, you got to compete and you got to beat the best. And so it gives us a challenge, but an unbelievable opportunity in front of us as well.
That's Badger coach Luke Fickell. Iowa coach Kirk Ferentz is the dean of all of college coaches. He enters his 27th season at Iowa.
When I got to Iowa in the 80s, really it was the developmental program. It was my big takeaway after being there for almost a decade, and I think things really haven't changed much. It's kind of the nature of who we are, what we are. That's a term that gets used a lot, but I think that truly is who we've been for really 40-plus years now, and this team is really emblematic of that. We've got a handful of guys that are really established players that have played very well in the Big Ten. They played very competitively and had success. And then we've got a really big number of guys that maybe hopefully are ready to take the next step, and then another group of guys that really haven't played at all, but that have been doing the work and been doing the day-to-day where they have improved, and hopefully will be ready to play in the Big Ten. So August is going to be a big month for us, I think, certainly. Like every team, see how your team progresses and grows.
That's Hawkeye coach Kirk Ferentz. It should be a fun Big Ten football season. And now it's time to learn what new rules will be in place for the 2025 college football season.
Always one of the highlights to me of coming to Big Ten Football Media Day is getting a chance to sit down with Bill Corollo, who is in charge of officials, and it's always a challenging job to make sure the game's administered properly. There's rule changes every year, new things come and go, conference alignment, more games, I suppose, for you to assign officials to, all of that, and always great to see you, Bill.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. I appreciate the time that we can have this opportunity to review some of the rules and points of emphasis and what's going on in the off-season as well as during the season.
2025, the season just about upon us. What are some things that fans will look to and see some changes maybe in some of the rules and how some of the things are administered?
Well, I think first of all, the Rules Committee has done a nice job, and I think the game itself, college football game itself, is in really good position to be successful. It keeps growing, the interest is there, but there's always accountability and there's always a lot more eyes on the game. So the rules and the player safety are like one of our top priorities that we have. So that's what the Rules Committee, that's their mission, that's their number one goal, is making it a safe and fair playing field. So a couple of the changes, and I would say that the game is in good shape because we don't have that many major changes this year. I think you'll see a few things on the defensive side of the ball with regard to stemming. Stemming is legal to shift across the line of scrimmage, but that standard that we hold the offense to as far as false starts and formations, etc., we're going to hold the defense to the similar standard. So you'll see a little bit of change on that. We didn't have that many delay of game defense calls or disconcerting signals calls, but I think you'll see a little bit an uptick in that area because the focus, the mechanics, and the Rules Committee has asked us to put an extra emphasis on the defense. The other area is that you'll see is player injuries. I said that's a high point for us. We need to recognize and refer those situations where a player is injured, but the reality is many times the defense and sometimes the offense, they're feigning injuries. They're faking the injury, if you will, and going down at the last second to slow down an up-tempo offense. And because of that, we made a rule change. And we said once the officials put the ball down on the ground, ready to be snapped, the ball is ready for play, if a player goes down and they're injured, they will be charged a timeout. And if they don't have a timeout in their pocket, then there will be a 5-yard penalty, delay a game.
And that is not once a guy's down. If a guy's down, that stops. This is the play's ready, and then all of a sudden a guy goes down, or is it actually when any injured player at this point?
Well, anytime, we're on high alert for injured players. After the play, we have a feel for what happened, who got hit, where they got hit, etc. If they get up a little bit slow, we're going to attend to them, get to them, the nearest officials, as soon as possible. In that case, if we stop it, there's going to be no timeout for charge. Okay, if the officials on the field recognize that there's an injury or potential injury, and they look in their eyes and they talk to them, and if they sense anything, we'll, as I said, recognize and refer. We'll stop the game, call the trainer out, and there'll be no charge timeout. This is after the ball, after the play is over, the dust has settled, we put the ball down, we're ready to go. And you'll see some players look to the sideline, coach, should I go down? Am I injured? And they do it. So we have a great number of plays from last year that are excellent examples. And I've taken these plays, and as I go around the Big Ten to the coaches and talk to the teams, I bring those 6 or 7 plays of feigning injuries. I said, this is pretty obvious. This is unethical. This is not part of the game. We want to get that out of the game. It's, coaches, sometimes coaches, sometimes the players are injured. So we go with that as the standard, but the reality is we're going to put a rule in there and we're going to charge them a timeout if it comes in really, really late.
And in this case, then it really takes the decision out of your hands. I mean, it's just standard. Even if the guy's really injured, it's still a penalty or a timeout, and that standardizes it a little bit.
Mike, and that's a really good point. We're trying to, I'm not saying we're going to look at every player and inspect them of the injured, because, there's collisions on every single play. It's a dangerous sport. But from the standpoint of when the play ends, we are going to be attentive to that area, and we're going to try to make sure that the player is ready to go for the next play.
Right. A couple of other things that I did see, just verbalizing replay. I guess the nomenclature has changed on how you're going to announce that.
Yeah, not a huge change, right? I mean, we're doing a pretty good job on replay, and we're really satisfied with that, with the Big Ten Replay Center. We're really happy where we're at with targeting and some of the major calls that replay gets involved in. But the nomenclature is one thing that it confuses the media, confuses the fans, and quite frankly, it bothered me that we would take some extra time. We're not going to change the play, don't have enough evidence to overturn it, but then we keep looking at the play to decide, should that be confirmed or should it stand? And it means the same thing. We're not changing the play, right? I mean, the referee will come out and say, after review, the play is changed to incomplete pass. Now, instead of saying the play stands or it's confirmed, we're just going to say the ruling on the field is upheld. And that's the right proper terminology, and that might save us 10, 15 seconds on a review. Yeah.
How about this? There was a little controversy in one of the bowl games that involved a Big Ten team. This T situation with a kick return, where it never was technically a rule. I don't know where it came from, but it just started popping up 3-4 years ago, where a guy puts both arms out and forms a T, and that almost was like, okay, we're going to let that bounce in the end zone and it's touchback, and so everyone kind of relaxed. But there was a bit of a trick play in a bowl game, so that has now been determined that's a fair catch.
Yeah, it's a signal, and it's a signal that it started at the NFL level, and it's a player safety thing. I mean, this is, if I'm a receiving player on a kickoff, I'm telling my teammates that I'm not going to return it, so they can let up. And of course, both teams, even the kicking team, sees that, and they know they aren't going to return it. But it was not an official signal. We know you can point on scrimmage kicks in college football or free kicks. You can always point, but you can never wave a signal.
Which, of course, Minnesota and Iowa a couple of years ago, we know about that play.
Yeah, we know.
Still T-shirts being made about that.
Know about it quite well. But because this happened in the bowl game where they somewhat, it was kind of a trick play.
Yeah.
And they caught it in the end zone, pretend like they weren't going to return it. Everyone lets up, and then it's a backward pass, and and so on. So that was put in and involved one of our teams, but it was a rule suggestion that came through and it got approved. And not only is it being eliminated because it'll be a fair catch, it's considered a signal. Any signal would be...
It goes into that category of a wave, right?
So it'll be, ball will be killed and the ball will be placed at the 25-yard line. And also, because there's some confusion, and it's a new rule about scrimmage kicks, normally they don't do that on scrimmage kicks, but we're considering that no matter if it's a scrimmage kick or a free kick, it'll be a signal, it'll be dead when caught. and the ball will be can't be advanced on a scrimmage kick, and it will be on a punt, a free kick, it would be placed at the 25-yard line.
Gotcha. Very well. Although it's exciting to get to a third overtime and a fourth overtime, timeout rules have changed now as we get into a third overtime?
The team still, during regulation, they get their same 3 timeouts per half on that. But when we go to overtime, the first and second overtime, each team would get 1 timeout for each of those overtime periods. But starting in the third overtime, they'll get only 1 more overtime for the remainder of the game. If we go 5 overtimes, 7 overtimes, no matter what we go to, they're going to have to hold that timeout if they need it. Just think about when on the third overtime where we're going to get 1 play in. Yeah. We're going to the 3-yard line, placing the ball. So it's not like they're running lots of plays. It's 1 play and they're off the field. So, and then once we get to that point, we will, at the end of that inning, if you will, third going to the fourth overtime, TV has the opportunity to take a timeout.
Gotcha. Very good. And was it maybe the bowl game in Detroit where it was an overtime game and there was a bunch of 2-point conversion attempts, and it seemed like the offense would take a timeout, the defense would take a timeout, then it'd get to the next overtime, and pretty soon it gets as long as a regular overtime if you're going to almost run it. So yes. I suppose you want to fit everything into a window. I know that's part of it. Punt formation, a slight change, but average fan probably won't even know that that's a change in the rule, but I'll ask you about it.
Yeah, we put a couple things in there, and a lot of it has to do with Big Ten play, that we've seen. But a punt formation, if you come out with a scrimmage kick formation, is called, you have to have a holder 7 yards back and a kicker, or if it's clear, you're going to have a punter at least 10 yards behind. At no time can you put another back behind center or between the center snapper and the kicker or the holder. Once someone comes in there, it's a legal play, but then you have to have 5 players, 50 through 79.
Yeah.
And the other piece of that formation, people wouldn't notice, if that snapper, and we've had teams do it, is at the end of the line of scrimmage. Let's say a tight end is snapping the ball. He's at the end of the line of scrimmage. If you're within the tackle box or you're covered, not at the end of the line, you can't cover that snapper, right? We're going to protect him for 1 second before you can hit him. And you can't even line up over them, similar to the NFL. And so you can't line up over him, and with a snapper moving to the end of the line, they can be lined up over them, and they can be hit immediately because they're eligible receiver. They're going to go downfield.
Permit me one more quick one. The replay rule, or the replay center that the Big Ten has kind of built in Chicago, it's kind of, I think, the envy of everybody. How did that go? Last year was year 1 of that, right? Yeah,
we did an experimental rule, or experimental trial out in Pittsburgh because our center wasn't built, and that went pretty well. We learned some good things there, and then we moved it back to in Rosemont to our building, and it's secure, it's safe, and it's the greatest technology in the country, maybe the world, as far as replay centers go. So we've had a lot of people, other conferences as well as professional sports, come in and take a look at it. The commissioner's really proud of it. I'm really proud of it. I've got it staffed with a lot of capable, recognizable people that are going to be in that center running it for us. So that has been a really, really positive. And replay is kind of a catch-all insurance program for us. If it's close play, it goes to the people upstairs at the stadium, but at the same time, we've got Rosemont overseeing the whole operation.
Well, very good. Always great. Not a lot of rule changes, nothing maybe as obvious as in previous years, but certainly always great to catch up with you and have another great, fantastic 2025.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate the time.
All right. He's Bill Corollo.
My thanks to Bill Corollo for joining me in Las Vegas and giving us all the info on the new rules and administrative officiating situation. Affinity Plus is your local credit union. They proudly serve Minnesota. They've been doing so since 1930, and they're a big sponsor of the Go Gopher podcast. If you're a current Gopher student or a proud Gopher alum, that makes you eligible to join a financial that wants to build a meaningful banking relationship and put you first. You can meet with a local employee at any of their branches statewide, including right off campus in Minneapolis. To learn more and find other ways to connect, visit affinityplus.org/GoGophers. Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union, federally insured by NCUA, people-centered banking, perfect for Gophers. We thank them for their support of Gopher sports and of the Go Gopher Podcast. Also want to talk about OnX Hunt. Have you ever driven past a piece of land and wondered who owns that? Or maybe you need to know exactly where a property line runs? Well, that's where OnX Hunt comes in. And it's not just for hunters. There are folks using OnX Maps and OnX Hunt for their jobs every day throughout the country. From farmers and ranchers mapping out their fields, wildland firefighters navigating through rough terrain, to construction workers needing to know who owns what property and where. This is the app that offers something for everyone. If you need the best land ownership map, aerial imagery, and property boundaries in your pocket, then OnX Hunt is the tool for the job. You can try it for free for 7 days. Download OnX Hunt in the app or Google Play Store, or visit this webpage, onxmaps.com/hunt. That's onxmaps.com/hunt. We wrap up our Go Gopher Podcast, episode 181, with a great conversation that former Gopher Daryl Thompson, my radio broadcast partner, and I had with one of Daryl's former teammates who now lives in Vegas, and he paid us a visit at Big Ten Football Media Days. His name is Carlon Burt. He was a defensive back for Minnesota.
We are with Carlon Burt, a former Golden Gopher football player and a former teammate of Daryl Thompson. We are, as we tape this, in Las Vegas for Gopher Football Media Day here in July. And first of all, Carlon, good to see you.
Oh, it's good to be seen. Thank you guys for having me today. I really appreciate it.
You are now based here in Vegas. Tell us what you're up to nowadays.
Just, taking in the city. The city's grown a lot in the last 5 years since I've been here. We've had the Super Bowl. We've had 2 championships from the Aces. We've had a hockey championship since we've been here. So it seems like every year there's just something new coming, to the city. And so it's been a fun place to live and really get acclimated to. I think this is some place that we're actually going to take root, and we're thinking about retiring.
You know what's is kind of interesting that I was thinking about was, your and I relationship from the University of Minnesota. I was trying to remember what it was that brought you here to Minnesota. I know we've always kind of stayed in touch. You've been involved with what I currently do, but what brought you to the University of Minnesota?
It was interesting because when we were getting recruited, back then it's a different time because you had to get on a plane. You had to, you fly in every weekend, and, the coaches are all telling you, oh, you come here, you're going to be a starter. And the first thing that Goody said to me was that if I give you a scholarship, you got to promise me that you graduate. And he was the only coach that said that to me. And it just resonated with me. And I was like, you know what? If nothing else, I know that I'm going to get a degree at that University of Minnesota. And I have 2 degrees from the University of Minnesota now. So I feel like it was a good move for me to have played at the University of Minnesota, to have gone there. I'm Uncle Carlon to several of our friends, their kids, the godchildren and things. And I've made lifelong friends, Daryl included, so I think it was one of the best decisions that I've ever made.
You said something that was interesting earlier, and I'll let Mike get his question here in a second. But you said something earlier that your goal was to get a degree. You weren't. A lot of times we think that people, we all have aspirations. When I was a kid, I was going to be the next Walter Payton, the next Chuck Foreman. And you said, you really wanted to go to college, you wanted to get a degree, and you just wanted to move forward. Just talk a little bit to that.
Yeah, it's interesting because my son is like, Dad, I hear these stories, and why don't you try to go pro? And I was like, dude, I was the first one. I wasn't the first one to go to college, but I was the first one to finish. And that was very important to me, and it superseded a lot of other things. And when I came in, I also was one of those players that had kids coming into college, and so that played a factor into my thought process as well. I understood when I got there that most players don't go pro, and I felt like it was my responsibility for my family to get that piece of paper to say, hey, you are a college graduate, and set the tone for my children moving forward. And that was really one of the biggest reasons, is that when Goody said that to me, it just hit home for me. I remember flying back, and I was just like, you know what? I think this is going to be the place where I go to school and get a piece of paper, get that degree.
You're from Canton, Ohio, and you talked about with us earlier, too, that when you were being recruited, you didn't have a phone at your house. And so the only way coaches get a hold of you was at the high school. So what kind of a challenge did that present in terms of making yourself marketable to be a college football player?
What's interesting is that I didn't even know how I started getting recruited. My very first letter I ever received was from Notre Dame. And I remember walking into practice. We were getting ready to start two-a-days, and Bob Cummings was our coach. The stadium's named after him now. Our high school stadium is named after him now. And he says, Burt, come here. It's me and Otis Williams, who ended up going to play for Michigan. It's a 4-year starter there. And he's like, I got some paper for you, and it's a letter from Notre Dame. And I'm like, holy smokes. And then the next day there was 2 more letters. And then the next day there was like 4 more letters. And I was like, what the heck is going on? And I remember Otis and I were talking, and I looked at him and I was like, are we that good? It's like, I just play because I like to play. I didn't think of myself as a collegiate athlete or somebody who was like all that or anything. I just like to play football. I like the contact. I didn't mind going to practice. For me, I felt like a gladiator, and it also was a great outlet for me as a person, because when you grow up poor, you don't have a lot of places to vent, and football was that outlet for me. And the irony is that most people thought I was going to run track in college, because I was a track guy.
As Daryl likes to call you, a speed merchant.
Yeah, you were a speed merchant.
I had a little bit of wheels back in the day. I couldn't do that now. If a dog chased me, I might have to turn around and fight. It was just getting recruited. Like, I remember Ohio State was calling me. They'll call my aunt's house, and Ohio State was like, we want to talk to Carlon. I was like, well, I was at the high school, and I know you saw Otis, but you didn't see me. And so it's like, well, my aunt would call, swing by the house. She would drive over because she couldn't call, and she was only like a couple blocks away. She's like, this guy keeps calling. You want to come over to the house? And I was like, he can see me after school. Never heard from the guy. And so it did present some challenges, because maybe they didn't think I was as interested in them as maybe I potentially would have been. But as far as I'm concerned, things worked out the way they were supposed to.
You said when you started getting recruited that you looked at Otis and said, are we that good? Yeah. You even hinted, when we were just having a conversation before we started taping, that even when you were at Minnesota as a freshman, you're like looking around like, am I good enough to be here? And then before you know it, right, you're starting as a redshirt freshman.
Yeah, it was interesting because, you sit down at the training table and everybody's, all conference, they're all this, they're all state, they played in their state bowl game, whatever you want to call it. And you walk in there and you're sizing yourself up. Everyone's sizing themselves up. And we get out there and we start hitting. And I'll never forget this, my very first scrimmage. Remember Seuss? He was a pulling guard. Yeah. Seuss comes around and he grabs me by my jersey, full stride, and he throws me out of bounds as a corner. I'm laying on the ground, and I'm going, what the hell just happened to me? And next thing you know, I got Billy Miller standing over top of me, and he's spitting tobacco on my face. Like, Burt, this is not what we brought you here for, son. You better get your ass. And I was like, I'm sorry, am I allowed to curse?
Sure, yeah.
And I was just like, this guy just picked me up and threw me. And I don't know what to do about that. So I get up and I'm pissed. And so Goody's like, run the play back. And I was like, okay, I got you this time, buddy. And he comes around the corner, and I try to blow up that outside leg, and he does a little pirouette, and then here comes Ed Penn, and it was a collision. Pow! And I was like, oh, my God. It was a great hit, and I took him down for a loss, actually. And I just remember getting up, and I was like, holy shit, that hurt. And I'm walking back to the huddle, and I was like, I got to get in the weight room, man. It's like, I'm a little light in the butt for this stuff, man. And it literally changed that first scrimmage changed everything for me. And me and my roommate, Drake Thaddeus, we lived in the weight room for probably the next 9 months. I went from a 165 bench press to 285 in literally 6 to 9 months.
Wow.
Because we were in there almost every single day, because I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to hit a guy like Durrell, at the current size. I think I came in, I was only about maybe 170 pounds. I wasn't very big. I just was fast, and I was a cover corner. I really came in to be a cover corner, and that was a little bit of a shift because they had us playing zone, and I remember arguing with Miller about Coach Miller about, hey, you told me we was going to play more man, and we're playing a lot of zone, man. I was like, there's too much space in between me and that receiver. I want to get up close to him. I don't like them moving around the way they are. And, so it was a little bit of a maturation process for me growing up, in the program, and getting strong enough and understanding that, I really didn't have the chops when I first got there the way I thought I did. And playing against the caliber of athlete that I was watching these other guys make plays. You see a Chris Gators go up and, I cry. I remember it was at practice our freshman year when I was on the scout team. And he goes up for a pass in the end zone, and I crack him pretty good. And he does a full flip, and he comes down with the ball. And I'm sitting up here cheering like I just broke up a play, and I turn around, and he's holding the ball up in the end zone, and I'm going, what the heck, man? And so it was just a different mentality that you had to have. And so you start to question yourself a little bit. You question your ability. It's like, am I good enough to really be here? And then when you get the nod, and you're like, holy smokes, you walk out there in the stadium, you got 65,000 people cheering for you. You're like, well, I'm in the big time now. It's a different animal.
Yeah, there's something to I think, because you belong there, and there's something to being with, now you're with the same caliber. In high school, you're typically a cut above all the competition. Then all the guys that are a cut above are now in the same cut. So how do you make that adjustment to athletes like Chris Gators and all the other, great football players that are there? And just, maybe this might be our one last question, but do you have what your greatest highlight is, or maybe your best memory football-wise from college?
My best memory, it's not necessarily a good one, but I remember lining up on Desmond Howard in our stadium, and it was like 3rd and 7. I knew the route, because the coaches. The formations. It's like, okay, I know that he's going to do one or two things on this route based on the formation and the down and distance and everything. And I was like, I know this guy's getting ready to run out. And I'm ready for it. I'm going to jump this ball. It's like I'm getting a pick on this play. Like, I know I'm getting ready to get a pick. And he releases off the line so hard. And he closes the gap on me so quick. The moment I open my hips to run, because I'm thinking he's going to take me deep, he breaks his route off, and I lost him out of my frame of view. And when I turn, he literally shields me with his body, catches the ball right at the marker, and steps out of bounds. And then he looks back at me, and I was like, you son of a bitch. And for me, it was that level of competition that he looked back at me, and I was like, okay, I got you next time, dog. I was like, I got you next time. Yeah. And it was that mental jousting that you're doing, but his route running was so good that you had to respect it, and he had speed on top of that. And so I couldn't just get up and beat up on him or anything like that, and you just couldn't do that in the Big Ten anyway, because most of those guys as big as I was, if not bigger. But that was probably my most memorable memory, is that play in particular, because the route that he ran was so perfect. And I just knew I had to jump on him, and then he still caught the ball.
Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer for a reason, right?
Yeah,
what a player, what a player. You had mentioned about injuries also. You were telling us before we came on the air you had ankle surgery, shoulder surgery. Daryl's got a new hip.
Yeah, I got a new hip. Need some other stuff.
Need a knee.
Yeah.
It was a different time back then when you guys played, Carlon. Tell me about what practice was like. It was like now Daryl goes to practice. We'll be there on a Wednesday, and nobody's tackling anybody. And he's like, man, why wasn't this around when we were around? And
yes.
But you guys are hitting every day, and consequently, you're at a point now where you're getting...
Carlon said he's had, I think, six or seven surgeries. Yeah. And Sean Lumpkin, one of your teammates, is here like a dear friend. He's had multiple, shoulder. Yes. It's typical with, safeties and corners, a lot of shoulder surgery. Yeah. But you've been through it.
I have. I actually broke my ankle in the spring game our freshman year. when I was taking the free safety position. So that was the one injury. I actually blew my shoulder out my senior year in high school, came in with it, rehabbed it, and I thought I was good. I ended up blowing out my right shoulder the week we were playing Indiana. We were undefeated. Both of us were undefeated that year,
right.
Going into that game, and I blew my shoulder out that game, and I ended my season. Since then, I've had 2 ankle surgeries, a knee surgery, 2 on my right shoulder, and 1 on my left shoulder, and I probably need to get another one because I can barely lift it over my head now.
Wow.
So, but I'd say this to anyone, I'd do it all again. Without hesitation, I do it all again. I probably lift more weights and probably, try to take better care of my body, diet-wise and other things. But I do not regret 1 minute of my time at the University of Minnesota and playing ball. When I walked away from the game, I was done, and I don't miss it. But when I played, I was in it, and I enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it is. And Carlon, you were one of those players, man. That was one thing, and I was saying at Boulder Option, said all it takes is all you got, and you gave everything you had to University of Minnesota, both on the field and off the field. So
I appreciate you.
Very much appreciated.
Daryl, Carlon's helped you with Boulder Options as well, right? A one-time mentor.
Carlon was one of our very first mentors when nobody knew what Boulder Options was. Carlon was there. Yeah.
DT calls me. He's like, Carlon, man, I got this program. And in particular, he had a kid that he had just picked up. And he was like, he needs somebody who can run, man. This guy's a runner. And holy smile, I wish I could remember his name, but the kid run like a little jackrabbit. I think that he won it was a running program that Daryl had. Yeah. And we used to do 5Ks and 10Ks.
Yeah.
And I think that I probably did about 10 or 15 that year with this kid. And he won every single race that he was in for his age group. Wow. That's how fast this kid was. Wow. He actually made me get in better shape.
Every once in a while we run across those in Boulder Options. We still do. We don't run quite as much, so we do a lot of other activities, but running's still one of our main activities. Yeah. But every now and then we have a young man or a young lady that's like a gifted runner.
Yes.
And he was certainly one of those.
Yeah.
Yes,
next time you get one, get Carlon on the phone, man.
Yeah. You can long distance train him from Las Vegas.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Well, Carlon, great to see you. Great to catch up. We thank you. Yeah.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good seeing you guys again.
My thanks to Carlon Burt and Daryl Thompson for spending some time with me in Las Vegas for the Go Gopher Podcast. Also, a special thank you to Bill Corollo, who joins me every year. Episode 181 is presented by Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. If you're buying or selling a business, visit sunbeltminnesota.com or tnma.com. We're also partnered with Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union, a locally member-owned full-service financial invested in you. You can learn more at affinityplus.org/Go Gophers. affinityplus.org/Go Gophers. OnX Hunt also sponsors our show, Happy Hunting from OnX Maps. Again, I'd invite you to listen to past podcasts, and please click that subscribe button right now to the Go Gopher Podcast. It's free to subscribe and free to listen. And please share the link to the podcast with others so they can subscribe and listen as well. And if you enjoyed our podcast, please let us know with some positive feedback on your social media channels. We'll talk again next week.